It's been 8 years that I have been working and managing the brand at Athlos as a co-founder. It so happened that uh, it was a chance. It was a chance meet that I had. While my background is in advertising, so I have spent time working and building brands and their visual identity for L'Oreal, for Mahindra, for Chevy, so some of these brands. And this is when some of the other passions and other interests had taken a backseat. So back in school and college, I was a very active person who enjoyed running and who enjoyed kabaddi and speak of different sports. And there I was playing most of it. And the advertising world took away some of that free time and work-life balance. And that's where I said, okay, maybe now is the time to do something about it. And that's how Atlos happened. So here goes. Running, cycling, take any of these activities that you can see on the screen here. Most of us have done something or the other as kids, as youngsters, whether it is running to catch a train, so not exactly where we are being most active, but by chance and by force. Or cycling, or playing your gully cricket, or hiking up on a small little hill for some extra romantic time with a friend. So we have all felt that little disturbance in the physical space. Our heartbeat gets fast, and we don't realize what are the challenges, but we face them. We want to stop as soon as we start any of these physically intense activities. Now, imagine doing one of these activities for 2 to 3 hours every day without missing a single day, 2 to 3 hours of running. Imagine a runner who runs a full marathon in 4 hours and 30 seconds. And he's training the next year just to shave off those 30 seconds. Those 30 seconds are his villain. That is what he wants to get off his personal best mark. And these 30 seconds that when people are trying to shave off their runs, the way they run in their first mile itself, it starts to matter. So you can't shave it off at the end, you have to start working on it throughout. And most of them train for something like this for an entire year, 6 months. Okay. Now, remember those 30 seconds? Who are these people that I'm talking about? So when we think of fit people or people who enjoy fitness in general, we imagine these good-looking models or really bulked-up people. But actually, that is not what the Indian landscape is. Not to say that we don't have fit people in India, but it's mostly people like you and me standing here who enjoy a physical challenge, who enjoy a challenge other than the other things that they are facing in life. So whether it is wanting to finish a EBC hike, or it is wanting to run their first 42-kilometer. These are pretty normal looking people. And they face certain challenges when they are training and running these marathons, which your regular clothes that we design to look good, they don't necessarily do the job that well. So let's continue trying to understand what kind of problems they might be facing. So if you're training for 2 hours, 3 hours, you're bound to sweat a lot, especially, so I come from Mumbai and it's humid even on a cold day. So it's going to get all sweaty within the first 5 to 10 minutes itself. So no matter what kind of clothes you're wearing, it's going to start feeling a little uncomfortable. It's going to start feeling a little scratchy. Because of the weight of the sweat, most clothes will start hanging and drooping on you. In such situations, a lot of runners experience chafing in their thighs. So I don't know if you guys, if anyone has experienced it here, it's basically when imagine just rubbing your skin on top of each other for 4 hours, and that basically gives a very bad burn, a blister on the skin. So these become the challenges that apparel is able to solve for in such situations. And again, the job is for 4 hours, 6 hours, name it, and we have ultra runners who run for 8 hours as well. So what is it that we had the opportunity for here? What is it that the big fours were not doing? You know, the Adidas, the Nikes of the world, and even affordable brands like Decathlon's. I mean, the range is huge. The product offerings are there in the market. So we sat down with a few of our customers or people who we knew in the circle, and we started having a conversation. And some said, I would love a pocket. Now, what is this pocket for? So some said they would love a phone pocket. So they definitely want to run with their phone, because 4 hours if they are away from their family or if they are just on their own anywhere, they would like to be connected. Either it's for safety or because people love to listen to music as they are music podcasts. You can call it whatever. And of course, you will be carrying some hydration on you. So you need a place to stash your water. And when you're running races, people also carry something called as gels. So these are gels which are instant energy. They also have electrolytes in them. So these are the things that I would like to carry on me as I'm running, and I wish shorts did that for me. So after studying and understanding all these needs, we went and we tried out a few different silhouettes for men, women. There were different challenges in both the anatomies as well, and some preferred that the shorts should be a little, not as shorts because they feel slightly conscious about it, and some felt like, well, they wouldn't even run in shorts. So, okay, we are not going to talk about them. So that's how we introduced our 4-pocket running shorts. Now, these it came with a liner. It comes with a liner. So there is a phone pocket on the liner, and the job of the liner essentially is to avoid the skin from rubbing against each other, and thus the friction doesn't happen. So we had people who ran their ultras and who couldn't ever find a solution, even though they searched the length and breadth, by these shorts. And after that, they have bought all 6 to 7 colors that we have. And now the happy problem is that we don't have enough colors for them. So since the time we launched it, we have not changed the silhouette. This has been constantly the same. So it has 4 pockets for a phone. Also, the design of the phone is such that when you're running, you don't feel the bounce on it. So, you know, when we carry stuff on us, imagine a loose bag, and if we are running and the bag's continuously bouncing, so it's a deterrent. So functional needs to encounter the utilities that we are giving or building in apparel to actually work from the get-go. So that becomes the way we research and design most products at Athlos. Now, recently, we introduced our cycling collection. Does anyone cycle here? Like cycling? Okay. So, did you know that when cycling started, or the invention of cycle happened, women were actually not allowed, it was illegal for women to cycle. And for many different reasons. So, it so happened that before the actual difficulties of the apparel were fixed, the first difficulty that people had to face was society, which is how most things are, right? So that is, and to encounter some of these things, there were women who were pretty creative in their own ways, and they came up with solutions so that, because the cycles that were also built were not exactly ergonomical for most genders or most requirements. So they had to figure out how to, you know, hop on the saddle and how to hop off and continue looking the way they looked. So never leave a trace that you were just, you just face some discomfort. So that's how a lot of women got creative. And these are basically DIY stuff, you know, that we all do. And that is how the invention of that apparel started. So if you see, there is this long skirt which gets turned up and becomes a short skirt, and the challenge of the society back then in 1900s, even though these are European references here, was still modesty. Like, it had to look modest while you still do what you had to do, while continuing to rebel as well. So this was actually Claire McCardle. She's an American sports. She was actually the first one who started looking at sportswear as apparel that needs to be functional. So she said, most of my ideas come from trying to solve my own problems just like you and mine. So here is where someone's sheer passion to try to fix their own problem becomes an opportunity, where if one of us has a problem and if we are willing to do something about it with apparel, then that could probably be potentially a market for us or some kind of innovation for us for the future. From the 1900s, when cycling launched as means of commuting, where people are otherwise walked on foot to get from one place to the other, and people started experiencing saddle sores and chafing issues around the butt area, to now where I think we have evolved quite a bit as society, and we have some really snazzy looking apparel, which is what we call the cycling revolution. So, and I hope that it continues, where we keep hearing more problems that each one of us has, so that we don't have to design ourselves to fit in an apparel, but the apparel is designed for us to fit in it. Now, so after the cycling shorts was launched and we had a few users who would regularly give us some or the other kind of feedback, there was this one user who came up to us and said, you know, those 30 seconds that I'm talking about, the one user that she wanted to shave it off, she was the one who said, so I trained for an entire year for this particular marathon, the Tata Mumbai Marathon, and I was all ready and I was doing so well, and that's when it hit me. So I got my periods when I was running. Now the general rule of the marathon says if you stop, it gets added into your total time. So it's a no excuse thing. So if you, whatever is your start time and whatever is your finish time is calculated as your total time, irrespective of any emergencies you have. And that's just the way it is for everybody. So she took care of it. She found a washroom, she took help, and of course she finished the marathon. She didn't leave it incomplete, but she could not achieve her targeted time that particular year. And it happens once a year, so she had to wait for yet another year to participate. And she came to us and she told us, you know, can Athlos do something about it? Can there be a product which helps in, you know, making it invisible for the time that I want it invisible, because I don't want to stop my training. And we said, yeah, sure, let's work on it. And some of the techniques that we used were actually, these are age-old techniques. So we built the period underwear. Now, this is how basically when I got my period, cloth was the way how most things were introduced for us. And it was definitely uncomfortable. I couldn't wait to start using sanitary pads, because it just felt so much free, no hassle, and no leakages, no issues whatsoever. And here I found myself going back to cloth and saying, okay, is there something actually possible, can this problem be fixed with cloth? And we were a team of 3 girls, 1 guy, different expertise. And we put our minds to it, and we call it the sandwich, the 4-layer sandwich that it is. And here, it was the design and the cut and which fabric goes where, so that we get maximum protection, maximum leak lock as solution, without really creating a big bunch of fabric in the center. So that's how the period underwear was launched, and what we see here are 4 different layers. So the second one, which is wool, which I'm also going to talk about later, is the one which actually does the magic here. The fabric we found had the capacity to absorb and to wick fast. So here is where, from absorbing to drying, and to not and it didn't make the wearer feel moist or wet in any way. So if you were hopping on a cycle with the period underwear, so the chances that things are soaking, holding and drying all at the same time is what this particular layer wool does for women. And that's how the product was launched. We researched and we did enough trials with her daughter, and what we found was that not only did we solve her problem, which was her 1 day's problem and something that she was specifically looking for during the marathon, but there were enough other women who were willing to look at sustainable period underwear as an option in itself. So this replaces all the pads which are our single-use pads for on our low flow to mid-flow days. So of course this does have a capacity issue for now. So I have a very heavy flow. On those days, I use it with my cup. So So sometimes, I mean, if anyone has used a menstrual cup here, then you would know that there are chances of some leakages here and there. So the cup is also not 100% safe. So what it allows me is some safety of my mind that, okay, even if there is some leakage, I am wearing layers which will protect me and where I can continue this particular presentation without any extra thoughts on my mind. Another place where it actually started working was with mothers. Mothers were buying it for their daughters, adolescent daughters, who were soon going to expect their first period any day soon. So the uncertainty of the situation where you have to be ready, but you don't know how much ready you need to be, that is where this particular apparel also provided as a solution, because it's a regular looking underwear. You can't even make the difference from this being a period underwear versus a regular one, but it does the job. And that's how this product has been doing well, and anyone who has bought this has definitely come back for buying the entire kit and the set. And in fact, women have been gifting it to their friends that, hey, look what I found. So some of these are big, small victories for us at Athlos. Okay. I think the way we function at Athlos is where we feel that the product is the tool, or the apparel is the tool. It's like your, it's like a warrior suit that you wear. So it is supposed to take care of you. It is supposed to comfort you. It is supposed to provide. So let's take a break from all the fabric and product and go back to the board for understanding how do we solve for problems. So problems, and there's this term called design thinking. So what does it actually mean to solve a problem with design thinking? So let's compare the two forms here. One is on the right. Does anyone know what this is? Okay. And the one on the left? Yeah, so that's a pocket knife. It's a Swiss Army knife. On the right, this particular spoon, my aunt who stayed in the US, and this is at least 15, 20 years back, she had gifted this to my mother, who loved collecting all kinds of different, like small little spoons. And so this was in the drawer in the section of the spoon. And I kept wondering that why is this lying here wasted? What is its function? Like, what is it supposed to do actually? And also it has this small hole in the center, if you see. Okay, this. And it has these two different sizes and it has a small hole. So it looked like it has a purpose. It can't be just another spoon. but I just couldn't figure it out. And I think much later, much later, this is what I realized was the job. It's actually a fruit baller. So, and this was at a cocktail bar, and this guy was making some a mojito or a sangria, and there were these fruit balls which were nicely scooped up and kept. And I said, oh, finally, I know what to do with that spoon. And that is what it had as one function. So one function, one very specific function. In the absence of it, it is useless. And I don't think my mother will allow me to waste any of that non-circular melon. So the middle class family that we are, we don't use it even now. But at least I know what it is for. And on the right is the pocket knife. Again, a subject which is very fascinating because it represented the outdoors and this, really hardcore personality. And it said that, oh, it can do so many things in one. And I think I tried getting my hands on the original one for a very long time. I still haven't managed to get one of those. But what's also fascinating about it is that how well it's designed to fit in each other's negative, positive space and become this one small little unit of multifunction. So this is the line of thinking that we have at Athlos, that it should solve a problem, yes. Along with that, what are the other? Sometimes when we try to solve a problem, we create more problems that we have not, imagined. So between trying to solve too many problems and not overcooking the broth comes the ideology of design thinking, solution finding for us. One such fabric that we actually have is merino. Merino is wool. Has anyone from the students used merino for any of their collection or encountered it? It's wool. The primary function of any wool is to protect you from cold and chilly weather. So what we also had, there were a lot of users who stayed in different parts of India, and they had really cold weather. Like Ahmedabad has cold weather. Mumbai doesn't experience that much cold, but imagine runners, hikers, waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning because that particular weekend they want to finish a 16-kilometer for a practice run. They're not even running the race, but they're still running 16 kilometers and 20 kilometers. So they would encounter this real, cold weather in the morning. And as you get sweaty, you have a lot of moisture and water on you. And with the passing time, it creates more chill. So it creates bone chill. So that is why we started researching for fabrics that we can blend for the activewear space. And we found merino. So the good thing about merino that we figured out was that it can be really drawn into very thin yarn and fibers. So thus, as compared to your traditional wool, which has some limitations of how thin it can get while continuing to remain strong as a fiber such that it can take the beatings of an outdoor hike, merino was doing the job. So we have a blend of merino with recycled polyester, which works for hikers, which works for trail runners, which works for anyone who loves to step out in the outdoors. And imagine something that works for a minus 10-degree situation, along with going all the way to 28. I mean, most woolen apparel, the minute it stops being cold, we may want to take it off. But this one actually regulates the temperature so beautifully. So we have groups of hikers who go in the Sahyadri mountains in their monsoon treks. And once a fabric gets wet, the chances that you will feel cold is higher, but that doesn't happen with merino. So that's how the collection of merino is pitched and gets sold on the website. We actually have a very beautiful campaign also that we have shot. So, and that was in collaboration with Woolmark, where they wanted to figure out how you can place merino for the Indian market, because most of the Indian market doesn't have as cold weather, and that's when we came up with the term merino for tropics. So this is where the branding part helps you if in any product innovation. Sorry. So this is a challenge that we face at Athlos whenever we are hiring for the team. And mostly, athleisure as a term has been so popularized in the market. And often, so Athlos started in 2015, and mostly everyone kept saying, you know, why don't you guys call yourself athleisure? It'll be, and make it a little more fashionable. I said, okay, there's no problem in being fashionable, that's not a problem, but it's not athleisure. So they said, okay, what is athleisure? And why are you not athleisure? So the issue with athleisure, the way I see it, or the way young designers who would apply for internships at Athlos had, was that they used a lot of sporty elements to make a garment versus the garment actually working for sports. So that's where the difference between athleisure and activewear for us is. That athletic wear or athletic fashion is one way to, of course, build your design portfolio, but, and there's no, like, nobody doesn't want to not look good. It's always part of the kit, right? Like, take your cricket players or your tennis players. When they're not playing the sport as well, they still look a certain way. They look very athletic. They look very athletic and fashionable. So I believe that is where the industry boomed and everyone wanted to build an athleisure collection. But I think one must really think about whether it is still solving a problem or it looks good and that's the end of the collection. And the application. So going back to design thinking as a topic, where we compared the melon baller with the Swiss knife. The application of thinking functional for apparel doesn't really have to end with sports only. There are many other fields that one can actually apply this kind of thinking in. Here are some of these. So this is during the times of COVID, where people had to come up with costumes which will help you to safeguard all the health and safety workers so that they can be out on the field and still taking care of themselves while being of service for the masses. These are our firefighters who also have specific needs in terms of, so they have these reflectors here so that they can be seen in the dark. And there are many different functions that go along with it. It also has to do with materials which are a little fire resistant. So it's almost like where engineering and fashion mixes to form something which is useful in the world, and which these people they are going to wear it 8 hours, 10 hours a day. So imagine it also has to be comfortable. And so I don't know his name, but this guy is famous for dancing on traffic signals to get attention. And I think, yeah, he already looks good, so yes. Yes, that's right. Yeah. I'm forgetting his name right now. And of course, who knows? The designs can be so out of the world that it can actually be in space with the line of functional thinking in apparel if we are willing to generate that for ourselves. And this is the philosophy that works for me each time I am stuck with a problem where I have to mix it up with a material that I have no understanding of, or I have to provide a solution which I'm still learning about. It says, if you can design one thing, you can design everything. So that's about it. Thank you.